Retro Wednesday is back on a Thursday morning, and that makes absolutely no sense at all. Yeah, with all the applying for internships and jobs over the summer, or hell, once I graduate from college, and trying to finish my last year of college, I've been falling back heavily on my Retro Wednesday reviews, but luckily Retro Wednesday is back. I'm going to try to be more consistent, and we're going to continue our review for every movie in the Universal 100th Anniversary Collection Blu-ray set. Up today is American Graffiti, the last movie that George Lucas directed before going to Star Wars. American Graffiti takes place in 1962 and follows several high school graduates who are best friends as they go on many separate adventures on their last night before they go into the real world and go their separate ways. Two of the characters, Steve and Lori, are boyfriend and girlfriend and experience complications in their relationship during this one night. Another character, John, is stuck cruising around town with a young girl who is a little too young for him, but she seems to be into John. We have another character, Toad, who is incredibly nerdy, socially awkward around women, that he pretty much is the template for McLovin in Superbad. He ends up going out with a gorgeous blonde named Debbie who acts very rebellious and is kind of Toad's first step into being a man. Just maybe. And then finally we have our main character, Kurt, who is on an endless search around town for this mysterious blonde who mouths to him, "I love you." As we all know, the nature of man is to want what he cannot have, and the main plot point of the movie is Kurt's relentless search for this woman. As I mentioned before, this was the movie that George Lucas made right before he made Star Wars. And this is based on a lot of his personal experiences as a teenager and an era of time that's actually unknown to me. I mean, I was born in 1991, a kid of the 90s, so I have no idea what the 60s or even the 70s were like. The 70s was when the movie was released. But whether I was a kid of the 90s or not, doesn't matter what decade you grew up in, this is still a fantastic movie nonetheless. And I feel that it's the staple, the godfather of these coming-of-age movies. And the reason I say that American Graffiti is the template for all these coming-of-age movies is that when you look at movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Dazed and Confused, American Pie, and Superbad, they all have many things in common. They have rebellious characters, they are coming-of-age stories, they have soundtracks that sort of define the era of music when the movies took place, and they have a lot of heart, and they are funny, and the idea of teenagers like experiencing their last night of innocence before they move out into the real world and begin adulthood. I mean, I know American Graffiti is a universal release, but it's a universal theme of these kids, like, we all go through this, where we're in high school, we're like prepping for the real world. I mean, college is like part of that prep, but we can't be innocent forever. We have that time in our lives where we have to basically grow up, go into the real world, and realize that there's a lot of things that we can't really have. And there are a lot of things that just don't work out as we have them planned in our mind. I mean, you want another example of this movie being a template for those coming-of-age movies that I mentioned. There's a scene in this movie where Toad is going to buy alcohol, and obviously he's underage. He's going to buy alcohol for himself and the girl he's going out with, Debbie, this really hot, cute blonde. But he's underage, obviously. And I guarantee you that scene inspired the similar scene in Superbad where McLovin goes in with his fake McLovin ID to buy alcohol. And I know there are people who are thinking, you know, that character has a real name, but let's be honest, we all know him as McLovin, and we're gonna call him McLovin, damn it. But back to American Graffiti. Again, a lot of events in this movie are inspired by Lucas's personal teenage experiences. There was even a point in his life where he was very interested in cars, and that's what he wanted to kind of pursue rather than making movies. And that really does explain why a lot of the movie features characters driving around the streets in cars, just basically cruising, because that's one of the moments that Lucas went through during his teenage years. It's a really well-directed and well-written movie. Ironic that I'm reviewing this in a post-Star Wars prequel era, but it's true. I mean, if you were ever to go to someone who is young, hates the prequels, and thinks George Lucas is a terrible director, this would be the movie to convince them that, no, George Lucas was actually a really good director and a good writer at some point in his career. Don't know what really happened to him, but let's move on. The actors are very natural, and the characters are easily relatable, even if you didn't grow up in this period of time that the movie takes place in. And the cast is great too. You got Richard Dreyfuss in this movie, who's the main character, Kurt, and he's great in the movie, and this was before he went to play Matt Hooper in Jaws. You have Ron Howard, who most people today know him as a director for movies like Apollo 13, Frost Nixon, and Rush. But back then he was an actor, and he's really good in the movie as Steve. And this movie also features Harrison Ford in a small role before his career just exploded with Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Now, I saw this movie long beforehand, but when I saw it a second time in prep for this review, I thought to myself, is there anything I don't like about the movie? And honestly, I don't think so. This movie is actually better the second time I saw it than the first time. I mean, I think it's, again, really well written, well directed, well acted. It's just a really good movie that chronicles a teenager's last life of innocence before they go on to the real world, as I mentioned. It's one of the definitions of a perfect movie, and I think, more than Star Wars, the best movie that George Lucas has directed. Now, I can't quite say get off your ass and go see it now because, again, I'm the kid of the 90s. This movie takes place in 1962, but I will definitely say it's worth seeing in your lifetime, and it's worth seeing in your lifetime as soon as possible. This is the kind of movie, now that Lucas has retired from these big budget spectacle movies, this is kind of the movie that I kind of wish he would go to direct. I mean, we'll see what he does in the future, but for all those who say that, oh, George Lucas is Satan or the Antichrist, that's, I think, overreacting in terms of the Star Wars prequels, but ignoring the prequels, people really owe a lot to George Lucas. I mean, yeah, without him there wouldn't be the prequels, but there wouldn't be the original Star Wars films, there wouldn't be Indiana Jones, well, there wouldn't be Howard the Duck, so I guess that's a good part, but there also wouldn't be this movie, which, again, defines and is a blueprint for a lot of these coming-of-age films. Like I mentioned before, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Dazed and Confused, American Pie, Superbad. And I'm sure future movies that are coming-of-age films will use American Graffiti as a template and a blueprint for how these things should be made. So you can hate the prequels and Indiana Jones 4 all you want, but like Spielberg, you owe a lot to George Lucas and the film school generation of filmmakers. And that's my review for American Graffiti. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought on the movie, subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. Check out my other channel, AlexG8462. You can find my links to my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr accounts on my YouTube channel. And if you like what I'm doing, want to support, go subscribe to me via Patreon. I have a Patreon video in my upload section. Go there, watch the video, and go to my Patreon account to basically subscribe there. Also, check out my profile on Letterboxd, LetterBoxD, movie site where I have records of all the movies that I've seen, and I keep a diary of every movie that I watch. Share me with your friends and tell them about me, and remember to know it before you see it. This has been The Cinemas with Mr. Robinson, and I'll see you guys later.